Hey guys, so my name is Rishabh and my Kiwi friends also call me Rish. So here in New Zealand, we are in lockdown currently and I came to New Zealand in 2017 and I just thought of sharing my experiences and realities which I faced in New Zealand so that it may can help someone. I had a conversation with my friend and mentor. His name is Josh Wulf, aka Sitapati. So I just asked him if we can record this conversation and I can share with my friends and he said yes. So I was like, okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Josh. So Josh Wulf, he is a coder. He's working in programming and he's also a professional bodybuilder. He's taking part in ICN competitions from I think year 2017 or 2018. And last year in New Zealand 2020, he has won the ICN New Zealand 2020 competition and he's 46 years old. He has a lot of life experiences. So in this conversation he's discussing the bodybuilding and Stoicism and some philosophies from some ancient Vedic books, and he has related how some daily habits which we create can affect our lifestyle and how we can practically form those habits and how it can affect our mindset. So he's sharing a lot of wisdom and his life experiences in this conversation. So without wasting any time, we'll start with the conversation.
Brainstorm with Rish.
So hey guys, we're starting this talk with Josh Wulf, aka Sitapati. So Josh, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Rishabh. My name is Josh
Thank you.
Wulf, also known as Sitapati, and I'm an athlete. I'm an amateur physique competition competitor. What else do I do? I'm in IT, spend my days programming on a keyboard, and I'm a Hare Krishna. I'm married, been married for 23 years, and I have a son who's 19, and I might not look like it, but I'm 47 years old.
Yeah, when I saw you first, I didn't realize that you were 46 that time when I met you. So now you're 47.
Yeah, I bought a bow the other day, like a hunting bow. I'm talking to the guy on the phone, and he says to me, "How old are you?" And I say, "I'm 47." And he goes,
Yeah.
"You sound like a teenager."
So here, the agenda for today is, to tell the audience, the young men, basically what we are doing is inspiring young men and maybe if women, if they want to get inspired by the daily habits which most of the athletes in the world they follow, because their lifestyle, their diet, their mindset comes from these daily habits. So you can explain about what the groups which you are running and why we are doing it and what's the aim of following those daily habits.
Sure. Maybe to give a little bit of context, I think it was Aristotle who said that excellence is not an act but a habit. And it really is. Yeah, before I did bodybuilding competing, I built a business, a network marketing business for 3 years. And I went to, Robert Kiyosaki says about network marketing that the main advantage of the whole thing is the change in mindset that comes about. You move from the E quadrant of being an employee, and most people when they start a business, they go into the S quadrant of self-employed. And, I was a yoga teacher for many years, and my wife and I opened a yoga studio. And at a certain point, we realized that in order for it to be more than a job where you don't have a boss who you can call in sick to, like other people call in sick to you, and you end up doing more of the classes. In order to take it to the next level, you got to build it as a systemized business, like McDonald's or something. There's a system and there are people operating that system. And Robert Kiyosaki in the cash flow quadrant and Michael Gerber in the E-Myth call this the B quadrant or the business quadrant. And the dominant mindset in that quadrant, so in the E quadrant, the dominant mindset is I want a good job, secure job with benefits. And in the S quadrant, the self-employed quadrant, it's like I want to be my own boss. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. And the B quadrant is I want good systems and great people to operate those systems. So Robert Kiyosaki said the best way to get yourself from the E quadrant to the B quadrant is to join a network marketing company with a good educational system and do that for 5 years. So I did that for 3 years, and I went to a lot of conferences, like, every week and then every month and then every 3 months for a weekend for those 3 years, and studied books like The Compound Effect, The Slight Edge, where this idea is that there are compounding daily habits. It really is a fact, like if you do push-ups every day, then you're going to get a different result than if you do them every couple of weeks or even every week. And I read a book called Living with a Navy SEAL, which is Jesse Itzler. And people might have seen David Goggins on YouTube. So this was kind of how David Goggins came into the public consciousness, was this guy, Jesse Itzler, who's a bit of a hustler. He was like a rapper. He became an entrepreneur with an airline business, and he was into marathon running. So he went and ran in this ultra marathon that went for 24 hours, and they're just running around in a circle. And he had a team of 6 guys or 4 guys or something who, took it in shifts. But he said there was this one guy there by himself, ran the whole thing 24 hours. He and his friends had like all the latest gear, all this kind of energy gels and all this stuff, great running shoes. He was like, this guy was just sitting on like a fold-up chair, and he had a box of crackers and a bottle of water, and then he just ran for 24 hours. And it was David Goggins. And David Goggins was running to raise awareness and money for veterans. And he thought, I got to find out who this guy is, and I got to get trained by him. So he found out who David Goggins was, flew across, from New York to wherever David Goggins was, and said, can you come and train me? Live in my house, I'll pay you. And David Goggins said, I will, but you got to do everything that I say. So he moved into Jesse's house, and this book is the 30 days of this Navy SEAL living in his house as his personal trainer. And at the beginning of it, he had some fitness level, obviously, because he's running an ultra marathons. But by the end of it, Jesse Itzler, this little skinny, weedy guy, is doing like 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 pull-ups, and running 6 miles in the snow. He's just a savage, And I was like, if this guy can get to 1,000 push-ups in a month, what is my excuse? So I started doing push-ups every day, and then just adding another 10 or 20 push-ups each day until I got up to 500 push-ups. So I could do 500 push-ups in a day. Maximum I ever did consecutively was 70 of them. My main limitation on it was just finding the time to do them all, to get them all done. But it's this idea of this compounding effect. Like, as human beings, we're capable of way more than we know. Mostly our attention and focus and energy is divided. And rather than like building on something systematically over time, we just do things a little bit here and there. And it's called adherence, or how much you stick to your program. That's what causes a network marketing business to grow. For example, like you call a certain number of people every day. You have a certain number of like meetings where you pitch a business plan to them. A certain number of people will join your business, and then it expands over time. And it's just the consistency with the work ethic that makes the difference. And the same principle is actually universally applicable to anything. So when I got into bodybuilding, I just applied that same principle to that activity. And I entered into my first bodybuilding competition because my wife wanted to win a bikini modeling competition, and she wanted me to enter into it and for us to do it together. So I did. And I entered into the competition 3 months before it happened, and did 3 months of training and then competed. And I didn't place anywhere in the competition. I got a participation medal. This was 2018. But I actually got in the best physical shape of my life, and I felt great. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to keep going. I also, at that first competition, saw a guy win a sword. And I was like, dude, nobody told me that you can win a sword doing this thing. I got to win that sword. So I've been on the quest to win the sword for the last, it's 3 years now. And it really is just, you create a structure, and then you just execute that structure without deviation, and then that structure will create your life and create your body. That's the essential principle of it. When I talk to people and they say, oh, I tried working out, or I tried this diet or that diet, but it didn't work, I know that they didn't work it. Like their adherence, if they measured their adherence to the program, they weren't most of the time they weren't following it. So there's like this famous kind of saying about when they flew to the moon, that when they're flying towards the moon, 90% of the time they're off track and they're doing course corrections to get there. I mean, it's a good story, but it's completely fictitious. But the point is that when you're training, and especially when you're doing your diet, most of the time, when to execute it effectively, in my experience, most of the time what you're doing is you're managing your deviation from the program. Like, yeah, you ate an ice cream, it wasn't in your plan. But then what you do is, rather than just like going, oh, well, whatever, giving up or just ignoring it, you work it into your plan and you go, I ate this ice cream, it's this many calories, it's this many macros. So in order to rebalance my program, I need to change this other thing later on. And then you hit your target for the day. And if you just do that every day, you're managing your adherence and your deviation to the program, that over time, the results come. Like this morning, I had 60 grams of rolled oats, 30 grams of protein, and 80 grams of blueberries for breakfast. And that's the same breakfast that I've had every day for the last 3 years. And I make it the night before. So I've got a little $12 digital scale. Before I go to bed, I put 60 grams of oats, 80 grams of blueberries, pour some water in it, put a cover on it, and just leave it overnight. And then I add the protein powder in the morning, and then I eat it. And I don't have to think about that. So the other thing about executing on these structures to create yourself in your life is that you create the structure and you put all your thinking into the structure, and then you don't have to make decisions from moment to moment about what am I going to eat, what am I going to do, go to the shops, go to buy your shopping or whatever, and then, you're buying whatever. No, you know exactly what you're going to get. You just get it. You know exactly what you're going to eat. You just do that. And then then all of your thinking power that you use goes into managing your deviation from the program, rather than, trying to use willpower and thinking from moment to moment to do things. So I then took this idea that was very successful in this practice, it was very successful, these disciplines, and started to apply it to my spiritual life. Can I apply the same principles to my spiritual practices? And so I think the other thing that's kind of key to the whole thing is I went into the bodybuilding competition because my wife wanted to win the bikini modeling competition, and she did. In that competition where I got the participation trophy, she won first place, got like a cup, So she's Miss Athletica 2018 in ICN Queensland in Australia. So she got to tick that off her bucket list, which was amazing. And what really empowered me in doing that was that I had become her champion. I wasn't competing for myself, I was competing for her. So a champion, we often think that a champion is someone who wins, like they're a winner and it's all about them. But actually, it's not. A champion is one who fights on behalf of another. That's the meaning of a champion. So to become a champion means not to like beat everyone else. It means to become the champion or the hero for everyone else. And in that way, you go up. And I watched people struggle with their motivation, training for these competitions and confronting what it would take, and like confronting the possibility of failure, like I'm not good enough, I'm not going to make it, whatever. You'll give up on yourself. But especially once you have children, you know that as a parent, you'll do things for your children that you would never do for yourself. People will do things in battle for their comrades that they would never do for themselves. They might be a coward on their own account, but when they see their friends in danger, then they will become a hero. And so it's kind of those two things. It's linking those two things together, a deliberate daily practice, creating a structure that you then execute and that have that structure create you in your life, and then doing it for others. Those two things combined together are extremely powerful. So that's kind of the background of, what informed this idea of these daily groups.
So can you explain as well, like what we are doing in all these groups, like what are the different groups we have and what are the activities we are performing, so that, like the common audience will be able to know like what we are doing on a daily, like day-to-day basis?
Sure. So the first group started, I was down at Mission Bay at the calisthenics gym down there with another devotee, and we were working out. We're doing some like rings, Olympic rings. And we were talking about Bhagavad Gita. And I say to this devotee, how many Gita shlokas do you know? And he knew one shloka from the Gita. So I said, listen, we need to read the Gita. We need to get you through this thing and like get you right into it. How about we do this? Let's read it together. One verse a day. I'll read one verse, you read one verse. And we'll just do it in like a voice note. And so we'll read the verse and then the purport, and then just leave another 60-second message with your thoughts and realizations about that verse. Because I was like, probably his adherence to reading is not good. Like he's like, oh yeah, I read, but it's like, yeah, but do you? It's like, oh yeah, I'm following the diet, but it's like, yeah, but are you? So I knew that adherence is key, right? And having that daily accountability is also key. So let's do this together. So we started doing that. And then I just started doing it with a couple other people. And so then I was talking with some friends in Australia, and we were like, okay, we got to get up to something here. Like the world is transforming. What are we going to do? And I was like, we don't know what we're going to do right now, but what we do know is that whatever it is, we're going to do it together. So let's find something that we can do together right now so we can build that trust between us and be in the same conversation daily. Every single day. Whatever you do every day is what you will become. People are like, oh, I'm unhealthy. I don't know why. It's like, it's real simple, dude. It's just the compound effect of what you did every single day. You did push-ups every single day, you get a massive chest. You don't do push-ups every single day, you don't get a massive chest. It's really that simple. There's no magic to it. People are like, oh, I wish I could be like as strong as you or as muscular as you. It's like, it's real easy, dude. You just do it every single day. That's all there is to it. 6 months down the track, you're like, oh, I want to get big. And it's like, well, the last 6 months, if you'd done it every single day, you would be big. The only reason you're not big is because you didn't do it every single day. People are like, oh, I wish I could get that big. It's like, I know why you're not that big, because you're not doing it every day. Because if you were doing it every day, you'd be big. So I say, look, let's do this every single day. Let's read a book together. And, there are 4 of us in this group. Let's read a book. We'll read 1 minute each, 60 seconds. And then we will share 60 seconds of our thoughts about what we just read. So we started doing that. And one of the guys in the group, he's like a coach for men and a Gallup strengths coach. And he was like, there's this book, I think we should read it. It's called Hard Times Create Strong Men by Stefan Arnio. So we started reading that. We've been doing it continually for 5 months now. And, actually the other thing that informed it was I read a book called Declaring Breakdowns. It's by a guy either from America or India. He has an Indian name. And he's from the Institute of Generative Leadership. And at the beginning of the book, he explains that we created this thing that we called the 5 a.m. Club, and there were 4 or 6 people in it. Every day at 5 a.m., we would have a phone call that went for 30 minutes, and we had goals that we wanted to achieve, things we wanted to do in life. Someone wanted to go to London, take his family there. Someone else wanted to do, whatever. And we would get on the call each day, and we would declare it as a breakdown that we had not yet achieved that goal. And then we would say what the actions were that we were going to take that day to get that breakdown resolved. So, it would look like I want to go to London with my family and it's a breakdown that I don't have the money to pay for the airfares. Okay, I got it. You got a breakdown that you don't have the money for the airfares to go to London. What are you going to do about it today? Okay, today I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Okay, then the next person like that. Then they'll come back the next day and they might declare like it's a breakdown, inside that I didn't do what I said I would do yesterday. So today I'm going to do this to get that resolved. Or I did what I said yesterday. Now the breakdown is this. And they did that every single day. He said that after like 6 months of doing that, their lives were unrecognizable compared to what they were before. So we started reading this book, Hard Times Create Strong Men, together. 5 months we've been doing that now. It's incredible. Stephen Covey Jr. has a book called The Speed of Trust. And he says that business moves at the speed of trust. And what this does, doing this practice, is first of all, it gets you to read every single day. And then the second thing is that you're in a conversation with other people who, you know, if someone doesn't show up for their reading or whatever, you're like, hey, what's up? How come you didn't do your reading, you know? And it calls people into being because now they have other people holding them accountable. It's like you're on a team, you know, and the team is not performing. The team is not whole and complete if one person is not doing their thing. So it's no longer just like I'm on a diet, but I didn't really follow it and no one knows. And 6 months later, I tried a diet, but it didn't work and it's a mystery. It's like after one single day of missing your thing, you got people saying, hey, what's up? You know, what are you dealing with? How come you missed the thing? And it forces you. It doesn't force you, but it calls you. It supports you. It empowers you into a daily practice. So from that group, then, you know, it just expanded. So I started doing other one-to-one groups with people reading Bhagavad Gita. You know, with the lockdowns and everything and not being able to visit family in person, you know, I started a group with my mother and my nephew. We're reading a book called Tough Times Don't Last, Tough People Do. Reading The Purpose-Driven Church, The Obstacle is the Way, the timeless talent of turning trials into triumphs. It's a book based on Stoicism. Hard Times Create Strong Men's based on Stoicism as well. Bhagavad Gita, whole second chapter, is about Stoicism and like a very powerful philosophical basis for Stoicism. Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the graduate study to the Bhagavad Gita. I'm reading that with in two groups. And, you know, by reading now, to complete all of this, I'm reading with 29 people in one-to-one groups and in groups of 4 or 5 people. And my reading each day takes me an hour and a half to complete. That's to listen to everybody else's reading and their realizations about it, and then to record my own reading and my realizations about that. And it sucks, man. Like, I was up until like 2 o'clock this morning getting it done, because yesterday I went out and did a workout in the park with Savika. We did some rings and stuff, and I did some sword training, and then I had some work. I had to be in a conference, and then to get everything done, I was finished by 2 o'clock. But, you know, if I didn't have this structure in place, I wouldn't have done it. I would have gone, oh, I'll just go to bed because it's late. And then, you know, 6 months later, it's a mystery. I don't know why I don't have any results. Versus, I am a savage. Like every day, no excuses, no nothing, no reasons, no justifications. Just everything has to be green in my habit tracker every single day. And the difference between operating that way and just doing things like in a sort of a lackadaisical fashion is immense, immense.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So how these young men who wants to transform themselves, they can find, you know, like such a group of people who can inspire them, because if they want to be accountable, they need to find that kind of group, that kind of community.
That is, if you go around trying to become inspired by other people, I need to find someone to be inspired by, you're a loser in your own mind. Who would think like that? See, where you got to come from is like, I am going to inspire other people. Don't try to be inspired. Be inspiring. Be an inspiration for other people. If you become a champion for other people, you will become a champion in life. People are like, oh, I want to be inspired so I can be a champion. No, a champion is someone who inspires other people. How can I find people to do that with? Find someone and say, hey, let's do this together. Find someone else who's like, you know, has a goal that they want to achieve. The power that you create by this daily practice, it is the power of integrity. It is giving your word to something and then fulfilling your word no matter what it takes. When you master that, you can do anything. See, if you can say, I'm going to read every day, and then you do it, you know yourself as a winner. You're like, yes, I can do it. And if you're not doing it, you're like, okay, what is going on? Why am I not doing this? What is getting in the way of me doing it? What are these excuses that I'm honoring more than I'm honoring my word and what I've given my word to, and what that represents, what that vision is that I have? Because there's a saying that you can tell where a man's heart is by seeing where he spends his money and his time. He can say whatever he says, but when you look at it, you look at his wallet. What is he spending his money on? That's what he's really into. What does he spend his time on? You know, you say you want to be a champion, you want to get big or be a bodybuilder or whatever, but are you actually working out every day? And you got to get real with yourself, and you got to do one of two things. You got to either pivot to what you're actually doing. Like, well, if you start tracking everything that you're doing, like you're tracking your calories and your macros, or you're tracking where you're spending your time, then you're going to either have to get straight, like, I'm spending this much time watching Netflix, and that's not taking me where I want to go, or you're just going to have to change and say, I actually really don't want to go there. I just want to watch Netflix. And you say, I'm going to watch Netflix 3 hours a day, or YouTube, or whatever. And now you've got integrity with what you say and what you do. When you create this daily discipline and you do it every single day, then you get this power. Once you, that's what you're actually training. People think that training means going into the gym and like lifting a weight or something. No, you're always training only one thing, which is your will and your word, so that you can give your word to something and say, I'm going to do the just 6 weeks push-ups program, and then you can actually just do it. You know, someone posted the Turkish get up with a kettlebell. And so after the reading groups, we created groups for working out, for kirtan. So doing a kirtan every day. So I add them to my habit tracker. And I just said, like, I'm going to do this every day in the group. But now, because of who I am for myself, I'm doing that every day. Now, what do you think it's going to do for me doing the Turkish get up every single day? After 6 months, what is that going to do? It's going to turn my body into like some machine, you know? Every single day I'm doing that movement. I do 5 on the left, 5 on the right. Oh, that's not much. If I do that once, big deal. I don't see any difference. If I do that once a day, every day for 6 months, dude, that's how you get results. So you're training yourself at giving your word to something and then fulfilling that word every single day, whatever it takes. And now you've got someone else. You're not even doing it so that that person doesn't come back at you and say, hey, how come you didn't do it? You're doing it so that when the other person doesn't do it, you can go to them and say, hey, how come you didn't do it? Because if they're not doing it every single day, they're not going to get what they're out to achieve in life. So you're in it for the other person. You've become their champion. That's where the you got to link that dynamic of being. You've got to be a champion. Don't become a champion. Just be a champion now.
Yeah, true that. Just want to ask you about, you mentioned like Stoicism, and some of the verses in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2 has come from Stoicism. I think maybe Stoicism has come from Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita has been spoken more than 5,000 years ago, and the Stoic philosophers, they come later. And I can relate, like the main virtues of Stoicism is like wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. So their philosophy is quite similar to what is explained in Bhagavad Gita. So what do you think about that, and how do you explain Stoicism with Bhagavad Gita?
Sure. Well, I didn't say that Bhagavad Gita came from Stoicism. What I said was, in Bhagavad Gita, you find a very profound philosophical basis for Stoicism, like at a very deep level. I don't know if I'd say that Stoicism comes from Bhagavad Gita. I think Stoicism describes a thing. You know, like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I previously described this science to Vivasvan, the sun god, who then explained it to his son Ikshvaku, who then explained it to Manu. And in this way, saintly kings understood this, but the disciplic succession became broken at some point. So therefore, I am once again explaining this ancient science to you today. So whatever Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita doesn't come from Bhagavad Gita. And it has been existent for millions of years prior to Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is a particular conversation on a battlefield describing ancient principles, timeless principles, fundamental principles of the universe, dharma. Dharma means like the intrinsic characteristic of something, like water, liquidity of water. Can you have water that is dehydrated? There's no such thing as dehydrated water, right? Like, here's a packet of dehydrated water. You just add water to rehydrate it. Like if you take the liquid out of the water is not there anymore. Of course, you could talk about ice, but that's a different thing, right? Similarly, like fire, can you take heat out of fire? Like there's a fire, but it has no heat and it has no light. No, you can have like an invisible fire that can't be seen by human eyes, but you can see it through like an infrared scope or something. So everything has some intrinsic characteristic. And Bhagavad Gita is talking about the dharma of specifically human beings, but it goes deeper than that because it's talking about the jiva, or the atma, the consciousness that is expressed through the human form of life and through all other forms of life on the planet. So it's human dharma, but it's also the dharma of the atma, of the consciousness itself. And I mean, in terms of like finding Stoicism in Bhagavad Gita, you know, it's in the second chapter where really Krishna lays it out. He says, Matra sparshas tu kongteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nityas tams titikshashva bharata. Agama payino nityas ta. That the next verse often comes to me in my mind, and I find myself reciting it, more so than the Matra sparshas tu kongteya one. But the idea there is that Matra sparshas tu kongteya shitoshna sukha dukkada, that from happiness and distress arise from matra sparsha, the contact of the senses or sense perceptions, and they are like the coming and going of the summer and winter seasons. They're just temporary fluctuations of the environment, which includes the mind. And one must learn tams titikshashva bharata, O son of Bharat, one must learn to tolerate them. So this idea of like being able to tolerate fluctuations is very important in Stoicism.
I think, can we explain Stoicism as well, like to the audience? Maybe some people will not be able to, know what Stoicism is. So,
well, you might do a better job of that. I mean, Stoicism's become very popular. Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, famous Stoic work, and then that has sort of informed a bunch of people, like the guy who wrote The Obstacle is the Way, Tim Ferriss, and others have drawn inspiration from there. But why don't you give an explanation of Stoicism?
Yeah, I think Stoicism means like a true Stoic follows the success based not on the financial gain of their ventures, but like converted that the fact that they live in a comfortable life without all the things which money don't buy. So it's basically like doing your activities, doing your tasks, doing your dharma, and don't attach to the results, which has been said in Bhagavad Gita as well. So it's quite basically similar.
Yeah, that's
and doing the things for the sake of doing it. So following the process and not sticking out on the output.
Yes. And you can hear it in what I was describing before, right? About you create a structure, and then you execute the structure and have the structure create you in your life. And what you're managing is your deviation and adherence to the structure. And what throws you off following the structure, what throws you off following your diet plan or readjusting it, is some temporary fluctuation of the mind, It's like I felt upset because of something, or, I didn't manage my recovery from this exercise or whatever, and then I felt like I needed carbohydrates, and I was going past the shop and I bought an ice cream and ate it, So you deviated from some fluctuation of the mind, the hormonal system, the environment, association, whatever caused you to deviate from your duty, which is the structure that you created and gave your word to. And so Stoicism is about managing that, managing yourself in that domain, having a structure or a dharma, and then managing yourself in relation to that.
Yeah. And I also remember Seneca, which said, like, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. So that, I think that's the most important lesson from Stoicism.
Yeah, well, Buddha said that all suffering arises from attachment. And Krishna says the same thing in Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, I think Krishna also says the same thing, like about the daily routine, like, asanchaya mahabaho manodune kramchalam abhyasentu konteya vairagyan chagrihate, like practice and detachment. So practicing like the same thing you're doing every day and just detaching yourself.
Yeah. Arjuna says like this practice of yoga that you've described to me sounds impossible. I think it is easier to control the wind than it is to control the mind. And then Krishna says, yeah, it is. But through suitable practice and detachment, one can learn to control the mind. So you start with something very basic, like you're going to read for 60 seconds. If you're in a group with 4 people and you're each reading 60 seconds, sharing for 60 seconds, that's 8 minutes a day. Nobody can tell me that they're so busy that they don't have 8 minutes a day. If you can't keep your word to do that 8 minutes a day, 8 minutes a day. You know, if you are the kind of person who will accept some kind of excuse or whatever, and they're all very reasonable sounding, oh, I'm busy, or this happened, or I just forgot, I didn't get round to it. You can't do 8 minutes a day. You want to be a millionaire, or you want to, you know, get a promotion at work, or you want to get big, or you want to find a wife or whatever, and you can't do 8 minutes a day, you're dreaming. It's like that guy, William McRaven said, he said, you know, you all want to change the world, but you can't even make your bed when you get up in the morning.
True that.
I don't want to leave people with like, you know, you suck and, you know, if you can't do this, you're a loser, whatever. The thing about it is it is the opportunity for you to train yourself in the like the smallest kind of thing. Like you've chunked it all the way down. It's not like winning a bodybuilding competition. That's a big thing. But winning a bodybuilding competition means breaking it down into small things. Like, did I put 60 grams of oats and 80 grams of blueberries into the bowl and put the water into it at night? No, I didn't. Why not? Because I don't have a scale. It's a breakdown. What am I going to do to resolve the breakdown? I need to buy a scale. What actions am I going to take today? Buy a scale. Go down to Kmart. Get one for $12. Oh, I forgot to do it before I went to bed. It's a breakdown. What am I going to do about that? I'm going to set an alarm in my phone for 9 p.m. at night, and when the alarm goes off, I'm going to go into the kitchen and put it together and then put the lid on it. You know, like that. So doing that, breaking things down in that way, and then declaring the breakdown in the small steps, the daily activities. I want to lose 10 kilograms over the next 6 months. Okay, well, what's 10 divided by 6, you know? It's like 1.8 kilograms per month. I need to lose 1.8 kilograms this month. What does that mean on a week? How many calories do I need to burn? How much calories do I need to eat each day? Break it down into the day. What does that mean about what I need to eat for breakfast? And then once you've chunked it down like that, you now have a structure. Now all you need to do is manage your adherence to the structure moment to moment. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Oh, I slipped up and I ate some other thing. What am I going to do? That means that I can adjust my dinner or my breakfast tomorrow like this. I can put 30 grams of oats instead of 60. And then you're just managing it in small incremental chunks. So getting into a reading group like this where you read one verse from Bhagavad Gita and you just read it as a voicemail, you know, in WhatsApp or Signal or whatever messenger and send it to the other person. And then they record theirs and send it. And so you make it work around your schedule during the day. Once you master doing that one and you're reliable for it, now you do 2, you find someone else. Now you do 3, now you do 4. Now you've got like your reading is up to an hour a day. Anything that is like a self-development kind of book, and it becomes this compounding effect over time that you're just doing it every day. You start with 8 minutes and then you multiply that 8 minutes by 6 months, by a year, because the time is going to pass anyway. And the way this universe is constructed is that if you don't set the course for your own life, there are people out there who are very powerfully setting the course for other people, and they've designed all these things, addictive experiences and things, you know, some game or, you know, scrolling through Instagram or whatever to capture your attention. And they're going to take 6 months, a year, 2 years of your attention, 8 minutes at a time every day in 8-minute chunks. And you're going to fulfill on whatever vision that they have for you, and you're not going to fulfill on your own vision for your life.
True, roger that. So before like reading any book, I just find some, you know, talks, maybe on TED or some other talks by the writer. So if I'm interested, so that's one way of, you know, reading a book. Is like sometimes people start reading it just, you know, and from start to finish. But if you find out some of the, you know, talks by the writer, and if you know, you get the premise or the summary of the book in that, and then if you know, really interested, and then you can study the book later on. and makes your understanding much better. So I was finding this book called the 12. So it's called the 12-week rule, where you just do one activity or you focus on that activity for 12 weeks instead of mostly. It was mentioned that most of the athletes, they try to do that. Like if your focus level is not that as per, you want to build that, so you can start focusing on one activity for 12 weeks and you just live and breathe that particular activity for 12 weeks. And then there's a measure, like the 7 steps which has been given in that, like vision, what you're going to achieve with that, your goals, like small goals for every day. And then it's like weekly plan. So you make your like day schedule in those weekly.
Looking at it now.
And it's called, the fourth thing is like measurement. So sometimes people don't like to measure because they see the reality which they comes on their face, and they just get scared when they measure after doing this stuff. So mostly people don't like to measure things.
Yeah, and then after 6 months they say, I did it, but it's a mystery. It didn't work for me. But the reality is, if you were actually measuring it, you didn't do it.
Yeah, and then 5th is commitment. So you have to be committed to that like activity or whatever it is. And 6th is executing on daily basis. And like last one is like creating your own idle week, so you don't have to follow somebody else's week. So you can, maybe some people work better in night, some people work better in the daytime. So like if you're active in the day, like from 10 p.m. to maybe 2, so you can put the main task of your day to like on that particular time. And when you're feeling a bit lethargic, when you eat, you feel sleepy, so you can put the other task on at that particular time.
It's got a big like, how are things going in my life? What changes do I want to make? What do I want to feel, do, or be at the end of these 3 months? Like that. That didn't work for me. What worked for me was I read some books a long time ago about micro habits and habit stacking. So micro habits they're things that are easy to do, easy not to do. It's not a big 3-month kind of plan. I mean, I can do that stuff now. Like for bodybuilding competitions, I'll do 3 months of German volume training, or I'm going to master the front lever and then work on that. But I had to build myself up to the level of being able to do that. And the way I did it is I started with micro habits. And this I found to be very effective with working with other people. One of the greatest accomplishment I have so far is I won the 2021 North Island Classic Physique Championship here in New Zealand. So that was like a culmination for me. And I was actually meant to be competing tomorrow in the national championship, which I was going to win. But it got postponed because of the lockdowns and everything here to November. But, the biggest thing for me was not winning that championship, the North Island Classic. It was that I won the Champion Trainer Award because I was my own coach and trainer for that season. And I was like, what I've discovered out of this is how to get to the source of the performance of the athlete. I've discovered the way to do that. So I can now take anyone who will work with me and train them into a champion mindset. And so I've found it very effective in working with people to create this one-to-one accountability, or in a small group with 4 people, with something that is only 8 minutes a day. Because it's one thing to say, you want to, change the world, but you can't make your bed every day. And it really is that simple. Like if you can master something simple like that, then you just master the next biggest thing. You go from making your bed every day, or reading for, 60 seconds, talk for 60 seconds, listen for 6 minutes every day, to like, now I'm going to do push-ups every day. And you're a guy now who can do something every day, and you know it, and you know how to do it. So then you find another guy and you say, hey, let's do these push-ups every day. What do you reckon? You want to get big, And they're like, yep. And then you just create a little group, and then every day you send your video or your pictures of you doing the push-ups together. And if one of you misses it, you're like, hey, what's up? And you just constantly going like that. And then you just keep going bigger and bigger. And then I think something like this would work for me now, because I've developed the ability to do that. Otherwise, I used to fill these things out and then just no action would take place,
True.
So actions to
So,
take
yeah,
out of this, I would say
conclusion.
for people to do the two things, a daily activity that you do every single day, no deviation, no excuses, no justifications, like a savage. You just do it every day. Not because it's like, oh, I don't need to do it every day. It's not a good idea. No, you got to build the discipline of doing something every single day. And you do it with someone else, and you do it for the other person. So if it's 2 of you, if it's 4 of you, whatever, you are each doing it for the others, and you're doing it every single day so that the others can do it every single day so that they can get the result in their life. And that is incredibly powerful.
Yep, roger that. So it was great talking to you, Josh. Sitapati Prabhuji.